Hello everyone, welcome to my African music conversations. I am Joe Kunuji. So this is the second video of my talk with Mandisi Dyantyis. And if you think his ideas in the first video were provocative, you need to check this one where he shares more polemic thoughts on the idea of preserving African musical heritage. Stay tuned.
We need to move music. Music is meant for communication. Artists to communicate something. Cannot be precious about something that doesn't communicate anything. That's the first step, you see. We need to communicate. So, make an example of the Bible. The Bible is an old piece of document. But every single time theologians come and they reinterpret that which is in the scripture for the time that it was written in. So, an akadinda, a marimba, a mkhube, a yuhadi, a whatever, if it cannot cross over time, then it's gonna go. Because who says that an akadinda cannot be played with the Western classical piano? Who said that a marimba cannot be played with the acoustic bass and the piano? Everyone who tries to preserve things loses them. Even with music and language, think about it. Think about languages. Think about African languages that have gone. And people were trying to preserve them. If you try to preserve it, it's gonna go. You know, and we make these instruments small by saying, ooh, they're African indigenous instruments. They are instruments. You've never heard Europeans describing a trumpet as a European indigenous instrument. They say it's a musical instrument. That's why the trumpet can play jazz, can play calypso, can play in the orchestra, the same instrument. So it's our shift. It's a shift in the focus that we have, and we start to, because for me, I have a problem there. My problem is in that we make ourselves and our instruments small. The people who invented those instruments, they didn't even go to school. We've gone to school, and what have we done with those instruments? We've just made them, they've just sat there. We haven't created any notation of them so that they can be opened up to other societies. You know? We haven't put them in different situations so that people can hear what it is about umkhube or ganyuhadi played with a choir or a piano. You know? Because uhadi is what can you create then? This is the sound that the instrument can make. But we need to want it to make that. We need to see the instrument as that. We've done it. We've done it. We have boxed our instruments and we've put them in boxes, and now we say they're not recognized. Who's going to recognize something that's in the box? Because if people did not recognize African instruments, they would not recognize African voice. Because African voice is an instrument. But why are people listening to African music when it's sung? Because I don't sing like my mother used to sing. But I carry some of my mother's, textures when I sing. You can hear. But I don't. I don't sing like my father used to sing, but I carry that with me because I'm moving the instrument. I'm moving the instrument forward. I don't speak my mother tongue. I don't speak it closer the way my mother used to speak it. But it's still the same language because I've allowed the language to evolve. So it's on us. It's on us. Since today, I have not seen a mkhube concerto, a yuhadi concerto, a stolotolo concerto. Why? The bass, the acoustic bass that we get in jazz was not made for that. Someone took out the bow and they started plucking on it and they said, oh, okay, that works. Now let's do it. Imagine if they had stopped doing that. Because here's the thing, Doc. I love African music with everything that I am. And I'm a custodian of it. But also I'm a custodian of excellence. And I'm a custodian of the fact that it's not beneath. Art is not beneath a violin. It's all in the mind. Umkhobe is not beneath a guitar. It's all in the mind. It's how we have chosen to deal with it. Akadinda, amadinda, marimba, all of these instruments can be elevated in their right mind if we started to create with it the music that we want to hear today. Because that's the question. The question that we should be asking here, is what kind of music do we want to play? How do we want to be represented? Do we want to be represented by the stuff that was played by our grandmothers in 1940, 1930s? Is that you, with all the education that you have, when you stand there, is that what you want? Here's where, as Africans, we're special, is that because our history is very recent, even musically. So I could play a jazz standard in one song, and then I could play a traditional Xhosa song in the next song. Nobody can do that. And look at what the world is doing. If you go to Europe, look at what the Europeans are doing. They're taking folk music and they're putting it into the musical departments. But don't get me started. Get me started with how we treat our traditional music in institutions. Because our institutions don't resemble Africa. That's the first thing. Because our institutions should start with African music first, and everything comes out of that. Have you ever heard an orchestra in South Africa playing anything traditional by any traditional composer arranged for the orchestra? Have you? No. So we all at fault. We all at fault. So that's why I made a conscious decision, therefore, that I was going to create music that pays homage, but that speaks to me now. And it takes a conscious awareness of whatever it is that you want, because we need to be, I always say to people that we need to be intentional. We cannot be the generation that's not intentional. We need to be intentional in our creation of our art. That's what we need to do. We need to be intentional in the creation of our art. And yet we're not. So that's why we're going to swim in the sea of blindness and whatever comes, whatever goes. Who are our best exports in Africa? Salif Keita, Yusundo, Huma Segel, Mary Makeba. Why? Why are they our best? Because they didn't necessarily do African music in the African, in traditional way. But their music did what? Was intentional in Africa. Salif doesn't do traditional Mali music, but he carries the Mali voice and he does whatever grooves underneath the music. Makeba played with people who played jazz, but she went, Hidonga Zama Kwangwe, so Chigale Milanje ni Mamo. On a sus chord. And then what do they do? Because they didn't have a reference, they played a calypso. They played a calypso rhythm, and she was singing a South African traditional song. And people were like, what? And what do we want to become? We want to become anything else but that. Yusundo. When Yusundo, even you don't know, he sings in English. Yusundo 7 seconds away. This is sing English, but that English you can tell that's an African English. That's not just I'm inspired by those people. Channel my energy to young people. I want to channel my energy to young people. Young people should know the music, they should hear the music that I had opportunities of hearing. But then you need to fix it here. You need to show them parallels. Let's make an example. Our young people listen to a lot of American music. But if you teach them about the history of American music and how trap, hip hop come from jazz and soul and blues and all of these things, You show them the parallels there are. They will then take those parallels and try and put them in our music. But they can never do that if we, as the generation that has gone to school, we're not doing it. Look at how, in a short period of time, we have inspired kids. They're singing our songs, black, white, colored, singing Xhosa songs, because they are songs that can be heard. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So ours is to teach, impart knowledge, write. See, write so that these things that we're saying are in books. Write music scores so that when you record an album, young kids can find scores of that album. So they can sit and look at all the pop albums. They've got pop songs. But we don't do that. We need to write them and publish them so that they can be taught in school as syllabus. So instead of me playing a sonata and a concerto and a traditional German folk songs, I play a sonata and a concerto and a song by Dr. Kununji. Then, within a few generations or few years, you will see the change. So listen to your favorite musicians when they speak. Remember Keba says when she introduces a song, she says, this is a song called Pata Pata. Pata Pata is the dance that we did in the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You see, so she's singing about the dance that she knew. What do we sing about? Girl, I want you, da-da-da-da-da, this thing. What is your, sing about you. Americans will always say, whatever we do, our music has a blues. And the blues is the music of a suffering people. You can't tell me of a suffering people if you don't tell me of Africans. Is that heard in our music? For me, I want someone to hear the music and I want the music that they hear to sort of be like a mirror where they can see themselves. That's what I see as my duty. Other people have it different, it's okay, I don't mind. But my duty is that I want to create art that is a mirror to my people. Just that. So that when they hear that song, it can heal them, it can make them happy, it can make them fall in love, it can cut their heart, it can, whatever the situation is, but they must see themselves in the music so that they have no place to escape. Because sometimes the music must do that. You must see yourself and see your truth. But still, that means we need to learn our theory. We need to practice our scales. We need to know music and study and every way so that music can be then accessible to all. Because I'm also, I can say all these things. I'm still of this, school is important. That's why I always talk about teaching. School is important. We've missed it because a lot of our people that came before us didn't have the opportunity to go to school and study music, but we've had that. That's why I'm saying, therefore, we've got a responsibility, therefore, as this generation, to move it forward because we've had a unique opportunity of going and studying this thing. So that's why maybe people will listen to this and say, hey, he can articulate himself, but I can only articulate myself because I studied, or I still study, because a whole lot of music and musical culture and all of these things was lost on that. You read about South African music history, it's disjointed because people didn't write about it. We don't know who came. We know who sort of came, the first band that came, and then we know of jazz sort of there, and then we hear of Sophia Town, but what was before Sophia Town? Oh, there was this, what was happening? No, there was this dance, and then, but because people didn't document it. And then on top of it all, the music was taken to other places. So we don't even have recordings of those things. It's hard to find recordings. Because maybe if we found recordings, we'd do what? We'd write about them. So if you listen to that, it's always a motif that repeats over some time. It doesn't want to go anywhere. It doesn't want to go anywhere. Oh my so that repetition, it is spiritual. Spiritual, that repetition. we say the same things. There's no second verse there. The people who are following, they're going to go, I've got problems in my house. You know? And they will sing that for 16 minutes or 20 minutes. But every time they repeat, and then it grows. Yeah. So every time it repeats, it means something else. It's the same, but it's the energy and the spirituality of it. So I try to catch that in my music. You know, that the fact that you cannot do African music. I always say that African music is hard. African music does not want to go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. It wants to go and come back and repeat and come back and come back. Because we like that, you know. Even when we go, we have 2 sections. We quickly want to go back to the section 1. We don't do well with going, there's a C section and there's a D section and then there's a fugue and then there's a transfugue. No, we don't change keys. We don't even want to change. Don't modulate here. We don't want modulation, you know. So I go in my song. Siyafana zonke, singamagqoki zonke. Siyafana zonke, singamagqoki zonke. Siyafana manana zonke, singamagqoki zonke. But now because I've gone to school, I go, Bovuga bandu bamanyane batatela mandla kubo. Bovuga bandu bamanyane batatela mandla. Yeah. So now as the students, as the people that we've gone to school, so we've used it. So bandu, but then I come back, siyafana zonke, hayabana zonke, zonke chiyena, siyafana zonke, singamagqoki zonke, ngolelu nomama zothi shiyomdonke, ngolelu nomama yiyekene, simana duwezi, you see, those are the sounds of my people. So I carry those things with me. That repetition. Also, not a lot of words in my songs. You know, I don't have a lot of music. I say what needs to be said, and then I'll repeat it. But now, and then there's the element of hymns, you know, which came also because the beautiful thing about Africans in general is how we can take something that's not ours and make it ours, so that you don't even recognize it if you're from elsewhere. So Europeans coming to Africa and hearing us singing hymns, they'll be lost because we've taken those hymns and changed them. The way we use harmony, we hear harmony, you know, but there needs to be a groove. There needs to be something, you know, with us. We don't just you know, there must be something, there must be even if it's a ballad, you can hear that, but this ballad, you know, it's got stuff there. So I use those things, you know. Let's say the traditional Methodist church, you know, sometimes they will sing a hymn, you know, and the hymn will be 5 verses, sings 5 verses, but then we'll get stuck on the last 2 lines of the last verse, and we sing that for 20 minutes. The last 2 lines of the last verse, 5 verses, because we love that. We are of that. And if you're an African composer and you negate that, you're gonna lose people. So our wealth in creating art is already there. It's how we view our music. So when you listen to traditional music, how do you listen to it? Do you listen to it as inferior music, or do you listen to it as a well of knowledge that you can use? Because the problem is us. We here now, we're creating music. How do you look at people in your village that sing traditional music? Why don't you ever take vocal lessons from that guy who sings in your village? You know, for a week, for a month, because you learn something there. Because when they say, whoa, 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 I hear you, I hear, you know, that doesn't have words, but that has a feeling. Yo, whoa, yeah, mama, yeah. because it's the cry of something that you don't know, but you know. Hey, when Tina, sometimes, you know, they cry. Yo, 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 then your man say, you know, you feel something is being thrown. Yeah, whoa, the man hey. You see, because we are those people. Our music has feelings, has a feel. So therefore, it's nice to go, oh, and you go, na na la di you see, you can sing like that because you've been taught, but sometimes you go, yeah, for the range, because you're African. But we don't use those things. Now imagine if someone sang like that over a trap song. It's creative. But we need to put our Africanness, whatever that word means, at the forefront of our creation. I'm done.